Hi, and welcome to 9 to 42, the podcast from the team at the Guitar Show UK. Join us for interviews, updates and chat with artists, influencers and those that manufacture the gear that we love. Hello and welcome to 9 to 42, and this is the podcast from the guys at the Guitar Show UK. As ever, my good friend Jason Hunt is on screen. Hi Jace, how are you?
I'm alright, Ant, how are you?
Do you know what? I'm really well, and I'm starting to feel just a little bit festive because the Christmas Radio Times dropped this week, which will mean nothing to our guests, but it'll mean something to me and to me and you. Which for our guest is a TV schedule that drops in about now, which tells you all the stuff that's going to be on over the holidays, and is just a big deal for people in the UK.
It's I remember my grandparents highlighting programs they would watch over the Christmas period.
I still do. I still sit down with a biro and I mark the films that I want to watch over. It's terrible, isn't it? In the world of streaming, I still do that. And to our guest, and we are both very excited because we have Bruce Kulick with us tonight. Who's Bruce? Is it right that you're in Vegas?
I do. I live in Las Vegas. Yes, moved here a few years ago. Yep.
Right, so Bruce is certainly known to me as being the guitarist in Kiss through a period of when I sort of got into the band a little bit, but has done lots of other stuff which we're going to explore through the course of the evening. But I guess the first question is, Bruce, how are you? How are you coping with everything that's going on? How's COVID touched your life? Is everything okay?
Yes, remarkably, being home and the fact that I'm in a happy marriage and my wife's also creative and I've been able to explore creative things with her. That's quite, that's the silver lining of a pandemic, because for the past most of the year, well, I've been with Lisa now like almost 10 years or 10 years. She'll kill me if I didn't get it right, but let's just say more than 10 years. Okay. And the fact is that for the past 20 years, I've been touring with Grand Funk. Touring with them would mean every weekend I'm flying somewhere. Sometimes I'm even gone for like a week or 10 days. It's not like the Kiss tours, if you get what I mean. It's those fly dates that a lot of bands do, especially the classic rock groups, because you're doing casinos and state fairs and things like that. And then I always would fit in things in between that related more a little bit to my Kiss resume, shall I say. So, the Expo or the Kiss Cruise or things like that. And obviously in March, everything came to a screaming halt, from COVID. And, during the lockdown, I was in shock like everybody, but I started to get very, wanting to reach out to the fans. So I started to embrace them with riffs, and I called them isolated riffs. And I was performing Kiss tracks and all to my, whatever it was from iTunes, or I just would play. Then I realized, well, Lisa and I have performed a few times together. Let's put together some songs, and like once every week or two we would share a YouTube video and upload it to Facebook and all. So I've been staying really creative in many, many ways, and it forced me to learn a lot of things like GarageBand. I used to fool around with that a little bit on the iPad just when I was traveling, but to do the little bigger version, and I promised a lot of my friends who told me, get into Logic, the next step up, you know what I mean? I had Pro Tools years ago, but it was much easier for me to just have a friend of mine come over and man the machine, let me be creative and deal with all of that. Because Pro Tools is much more complex, and I think, to something like GarageBand, even though I'm really impressed how sophisticated GarageBand can be. And how good, especially when I decided, well, I'm going to record guitars for people. And I used to get sessions, but it would be simple. I'd go to someone's house, or they'd come over with a laptop. They would probably have really good plugins and all for guitar stuff, because the simulation now has been really incredible. But now I realized I don't want people here if I don't have to have it. So I forced myself to learn that. So, even before this interview, you guys and us, we all had a microphone chat, and I've learned so much with that. I learned iMovie because I used to ask other people to do things, and the vision was never exactly how I had it. And I have so much content on my computer and my archives. So I've really dove in. My wife first showed me some things because she experimented with it a few years back, and now that's another thing under my belt. So I've learned all these, at home kind of audio and visual techniques that I didn't know before, and just managing social media and all the between Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and the official page and the personal page and all that has been incredible. And to be honest, since March, I have not had a gig except for occasional recording thing, some guitar lessons online. That's been fun. Some things like what we're doing, obviously, where I get to really talk about my, knowledge of gear, or just talk about an experience like when Eddie Van Halen passed away. So it's been really almost one of my busiest periods of time I've ever had in my life. And I've been busy where I would be traveling from one project, let's say the Grand Funk gigs, and then I have to leave to get on the Kiss cruise, and then I go back to a Grand Funk gig, and then within a week I'm off to another country to do a performance or a clinic. So many times my life has been really busy, but this is concentrated in a different way, and without the gig money that I've been so blessed with for especially just if I want to talk Grand Funk for 20 years in a row, doing 40 to 50 gigs every year. I don't have that. So that made me very aggressive about every new thing I can do. Okay. Yeah. And if it could generate some income, that's the big bonus. I never really did enough merchandise that my fans would enjoy because I didn't always have time, didn't think maybe they would be that into it, and now seeing that they really are. My year has become my non-makeup years have become more and more, I feel, loved and appreciated, especially with Kiss carrying on with makeup, Kiss not embracing that era much. So in truth, I've been doing well. I've been able to survive, and I've been able to embrace my fan, and I'm not saying this in a purely marketing standpoint, but I've been improving my visibility and brand to my fans. And I think with the typical year of touring and being out of town all the time, that wasn't easy to do. So I really feel that there's been so much to learn, and I have been attacking it on all levels. When I don't know what I'm doing, I reach out. I try to find the information online, and if I can't, I ask somebody, From the posting to the video, I have a giant file that shows me how to do lighting better. A neighbor of mine loaned me lights, so my production kept increasing, and people would ask me, and I would see what they're doing wrong. And if it's a friend, I might mention, don't put the camera down there, and make sure you have this kind of light and that kind of, So it's been an incredibly. It's almost like I went back to school and I started from ground zero. It's very, very weird, and everything that I always aspired to want to do, because I always enjoyed doing recording at home, but it was a 4-track, then it was a 12-track Akai. Those were wild machines. Everybody in Kiss had one when I was in the band, and I was the only one that knew how to bust the tracks and add effects and things. So and then the capability you can that's at your fingertips now on a computer in a program like GarageBand. So it's really been, like I said, an entirely new universe for me of tools to really have an impact and improve my career and carry it on, and in some ways do things that I never probably would have been able to do myself if it wasn't for something as horrible as a pandemic, forcing everybody to just rethink their work.
Well, there's a couple of things I want to jump in on there, because that was a fascinating recap, and a few things actually. You said right at the beginning that there was that thing with I think, did you say isolated riffs? So
it was called isolated riffs. Yeah,
and I think a lot of people very much at the beginning, just wanted to share bits of content.
Yes.
Just wanted to put something out there because it was kind of, we're all in this together. What can we do just to keep each other going? Mm-hmm. And there was a lot of that, and I think so. You saw a lot of artists do that, and then what you've described really then has become a thing. Everybody has said, well, look, if this is what it's going to be, there's opportunity for me to work on my brand here.
Mm-hmm.
And what tools do I need for my brand? And is it video? Is it audio? What is it? Is it a podcast? Is it? Am I going to go down the YouTube route? Is it going to be live streaming? Am I going to do little gigs? Whatever. And everybody's done it a slightly different way. But you're right. It's made us look at. Well, hang on a minute. All these tools actually were always here. iMovie was always there. It was always been on my Mac.
Right.
GarageBand's always been on my Mac, and it's only when you start to look, because I'm with you on Pro Tools and Logic and all those things. Sometimes you get swamped by the sheer amount of stuff that's available to you, when actually the creativity comes from, look, give me something I can record on, and let me be creative. And GarageBand actually absolutely does that.
Absolutely, and the iMovie it's another level of that, And I can't tell you how good I feel when there's like a professional film editor who's watching my content and saying, "You're doing a really good job with that." You know what I mean? Because I don't have a lesson. I learn by wanting to destroy my computer, because you know what I mean, when you don't understand why is it out of sync, why is this happening, why did that happen, where did it go, why won't why can't I import this? And then in time, I remember my wife was like practically in tears multiple times when I was relying on her to first do it, and then I would jump in with her and watch, and then I would realize, I would think like the GarageBand on the iMovie and say, I don't think we can do it that way, because I see the way they want you to edit, and then applying that, and I learned from I've been blessed by working with some people that are they just slap the keyboard around, bop 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 bop, and everything's happening, and it sounds amazing. But there were times they'd hit a wall, okay, and something doesn't work, and all of a sudden, what should work doesn't work, and both of them were always very clear about there's always a workaround, and there always was. So that taught me that no matter what comes up, there's always a solution. There's always another way to do it. It will take more time, and you better hunker down and realize that everything's not instant on this stuff, as you guys know, and that's with everything though. With even without me, just studying these programs like GarageBand and iMovie, if you want to learn a song right, if it's a challenge, well, there's tools for you to help, but you're going to have to spend some time. So I've become very patient, and I know that if I think it's only going to take me 2 hours, I try to budget 3, into doing it, But I got to admit that I know these things were always there. I was fascinated when my keyboard player and Graham Funk on a flight on his iPhone put together a music video and show it to me. You know what I mean? I'd be like, how the hell did he do that? you know what I mean? And here I am doing kind of really a bit complex stuff now. I mean, in the past, like kind of 6 weeks, some of the more complicated things became real obvious to me. And then the things that always frustrated me that I couldn't understand, why is Ken Burns doing this? Or why why doesn't GarageBand... why am I like, where did that track go? And then I'm realizing, why can't I edit this properly? I know what I want to do. All those things start to just fall to the wayside, and they become like, oh, well, yeah, I didn't know about that before. Yeah. So the learning curve has been tremendous, and I share the tips with my friends to try to help them through it. Some people just don't have patience, and I have to admit, and Lisa knows when I'm like really, we have like my office is like open to the living room and she works on the big island there where she does her artwork stuff. So she can hear me like, she must know, don't worry, Bruce, you'll figure it out. I make these growly faces and everything, but that's my process to just go like, I'm not doing something right, and I can't tell you how many times, if it wasn't for that trial and error and the experience of working on it, that's how you learn on these things. But I could say that about someone who doesn't really, they're trying to play fast and they play sloppy because they didn't spend the time to walk before they run, So, I love seeing myself complete, constantly kind of like beating before and doing better stuff and it looking good and then going up a little notch, I don't want it to go backwards, obviously. I want the guitar sounds to get better on my GarageBand, and I want the movie, the presentations to look more seamless, shall I say, or more natural, and not be distracting. How does it feel? You know what I mean? Well, how does it make you feel, really? Just like the music, the video is the same thing, you know. But let's talk gear. Gear is more important than the video stuff.
Because I've been watching the sort of isolated riffs things, and there's that. I was going to say kid. He's a kid to me now. That's been taking your isolated riffs, isn't he? And he's been recording the whole sort of Kiss song around them,
right?
And sort of dropping you in.
I was very flattered to see that, and there's a couple of really good ones out there. Originally, everything was primitive because of COVID and the lockdown and everything. So I'd be like, all right, I'm going to play like my jungle, clinic performance that I would do at, let's say, one of your guitar shows, if you had me in a room. But I'm just sitting right in front of this computer right here, with the track blaring, and I'm playing my guitar, one take, and here you go. And it's like done on the iPhone, vertical, right? And then next thing you know, they stick a drummer in, a bass player, or some guy just takes the solo and he performs the whole song and pops me in. I don't do the isolated riffs anymore because now I'm preferring to present, to wrap whatever I want to celebrate or share with anybody within a bigger story. Now that I know that, but I am quite flattered that the people wanted to do that, and lots of times, depending on the source of the song, how I performed it. If I did it without the actual Kiss recording behind me, then the key might be weird, the timing might be weird, and I see that they kind of fool with that too. All I could say is that all that's flattering to me, period, and it's all done with good intent, and it entertains people. And I look at like which ones were people responded to the most. Some of the guitars of the month, and I still didn't do December yet, by the way, because I've been too busy with these. I have a couple of actual streaming gigs coming up. You know what I mean? So and that was a whole nother thing. Now my living room turns into amps and PAs and Shure microphones and figuring out, well, am I using backing tracks? I better have more percussion. We won't know. We'll lose the beat. You know what I mean? So that was a whole nother thing to work on. But these challenges are always, they're a pleasure for me to get to the other side, shall I say, when I actually, make it work. But I want to present my story the best way I can, and my isolated riffs, I'm calling them, or the guitar of the months now I'm calling amplified. You know what I mean? Because I used to just like stand in front of something and then for a minute, because on Instagram it can only be a minute. Okay, this ESP was used during the Crazy Nights tour, and then I keep it a minute. Now I could do 10 minutes, upload to any of them. For Twitter, it would be a YouTube, right? Yeah. And now I can drop in photos. I could tell the story. I could do voiceover. I could whatever. I love that all these options are here, and I think Ant put it the best way, that it's always really about your creativity and your vision, and these are just the tools there to help you do it. And the same, that's the beauty of it. If you understand the mechanics, now be creative with it. Now. Yeah. Get the vision.
Yeah. Because last month's Guitar of the Month, or Amplified, was the Radioactive guitar, wasn't it?
Well, I did two Radioactives, a red BC Rich, but then the following month I followed with the ESP black one. Are you referring to the red one or the black one?
The red one.
Yeah, the red one had a really big story because of the fact that, that guitar I gave to Eric Carr. Next thing I know, he dies, but in his will, even though he left me music, he didn't do anything with. He gave the guitars to like friends of his, and next thing you know, of course, they just run down. They get the guitar and they run down and sell it. You know what I mean? There it is in the We Buy Guitars, and so it had a fascinating story. And then ultimately now it winds up. That's what I'm also busy with my merch helper. Is the mini guitars that I made of that model, you know what I mean, which I started to promote shortly after that. So it's a great story with that guitar, it really is. Even though it wasn't a really well-recorded guitar or performed guitar, but it relates to the Radioactive suit, which I now own, which is very nice. It's in my home in a mannequin on a big, it's crazy. That's cool. We call it Mr. Radioactive. I've been celebrating my Kiss years more so during COVID than ever. I think
I think you should, because I'm 51, and the first time I saw Kiss was the Lick It Up tour in '83, and I was 12 or 13, roughly. Can't remember. So I never knew Kiss in makeup. Whilst I discovered them prior to that, I never actually saw them in makeup. So for all of my teenage years and into my 20s, Kiss didn't wear makeup, and that was the era that I fell in love with.
Sure.
I mean, I'd have seen you the following year on the Animalised tour at the worst venue in the world, Stafford Bingley Hall, the Cowshed. And I just always wondered what Kiss thought when they got to a cowshed in the middle of Stafford, and it was like I'd seen all of these like Budokan and Madison Square Garden sort of like illegal videos, and then I mean, what's your impression when you turn up to what still has cow shit on the floor kind of venue?
Was that in '84 for the Animalized tour?
Yeah.
I mean, that first tour for me, anywhere they took me, I was thrilled to death because I was originally just a temporary guitar player for Kiss, but it was still joyful. I remember Eric Carr would complain sometimes in the limo back to the hotel and everything, and I'd be like, how many people would like just want your gig? You know what I mean? Please stop, okay? But I do think that Gene and Paul, gigs that are a little less prestigious or funky, they were aware of it, but it was still always like they committed, they're going to perform, and it's going to be that relationship on stage performing. And if there's a crowd, they're happy. Now, if you put us in a cowshit arena or venue with nobody there or a couple hundred people, it's not going to go very well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't remember any of the gigs on that tour actually in any way, people being like, this is terrible. There were times it was challenging for the staging, the shape of the venue or what we can use. But that Animalized thing was, you got to remember the band built up from Lick It Up. And prior to that, they were really struggling. Creatures of Night, great album and everything, but now Ace is gone and it didn't really sell that well. The Elder was prior to that, and a lot of people, they were just falling out of favor. Yeah. But Jason, you're like many of the fans that especially are passionate for My Era. They started with My Era, so that became the Kiss they knew, and then obviously they still support them probably in any form. But I love it. Your age is perfect for that.
I flew to New York last March with a friend of mine to go and see Kiss at Madison Square Garden because it's the end of the road. It was the end. We'd never seen them anywhere other than the UK.
Right. And the Garden is a really special place too.
Yeah, and it's like, well, they're from New York. It's the place to go. So we went, and it was brilliant. But I think they only played Lick It Up from the non-makeup years, and then when we saw them in the UK a couple of months later, they added Crazy Crazy Nights in because obviously that was
because it was such a big hit in the UK. Yeah, no, they I know they're not doing it intentionally, but they have really not bothered to want to talk about and in any way perform or celebrate the non-makeup years, okay? Because their model now is the makeup, and then they have a wealth of material with the makeup, and then some of those makeup albums they did after even Peter and Ace left. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is their lack of that use just makes my very creative and passionate usage of those 12 years. And now with all these anniversaries celebrating, first I celebrated late last year the Animalized tour and all that, and then this year I've been able to do the Asylum album coming out, and then the start of the tour, and that was really well received, especially because I was able to share this video of the Who song "Won't Get Fooled Again" performed by us. So ultimately, it's been tremendously ignored by them, and I just pick up the ball and run because it's what I know and what I know the fans are really hungry for. So what can I say? I still see a lot of good in them performing and being out there. Obviously, they couldn't do anything either during the pandemic. And ironically, they have a streaming gig for New Year's, which is very clever, and it's going to be really cool. And then I have a streaming gig, you know what I mean, on a much smaller level. It's going to be from my living room,
Not Dubai or wherever they're playing.
Yeah, not Dubai and not 50 cameras. We're talking about 2 iPhones, okay? But it's going to look great because I understand how to do that. And honestly, and the other gig that I'm prepping for is actually something for a corporate thing where I actually did physically perform with my wife a few years back for these people, but now they're happy with a streaming, packaged concert from me, and it'll be actually Todd and I again, Todd Kearns, the guy from Slash, and my cruise band, and my wife to pop in on a couple of tunes, and he'll be thrilled with that. You see what I mean? And that, I think, Ant made a point about earlier, or I wanted to expound upon it. Is just it really is so new, all this stuff, that there isn't one big leading platform for it, or way to do it, way to deliver it, way to but I like that they're getting in the pool. You know what I mean? But and of course for every artist, it needs to be a little different, because not everyone can do what Kiss is going to do. But I do feel that people should support it and be happy with it, because I'm hoping that until things are safe and it goes back to a more normal environment for us, which could be still quite many, many months away, why not turn on a television and look at a live stream and enjoy someone, performing. I'm hoping that people get that. Not that I necessarily will know how many people tune into Kiss, but they're putting on the concert, and I'm sure they got paid before they play a note.
I think there's a couple of things that follow for that. One is we're mangling the platforms a little bit. We're seeing what we can do with platforms, and I think that's great, because the platforms, they've been used they've had a primary use, but now what creatives are doing are exploring ways of really using the platforms to really touch as many people as possible. And
Correct.
I think that the really interesting thing about where we are is that we're breaking down the barriers all the time between the creative, the artist, and the fan or the consumer, who are now able to almost have literally a one-to-one relationship. Because, you're seeing things that people are doing with your video content, and they're taking your video content and they're moving it on and making it into something else as well. So creativity is leading to more creativity.
Yep. And then I share it.
And then you share, and it becomes a beautiful thing. And I think, for all the arguments through COVID and for all the messing about with, should you wear a face mask or shouldn't you wear a face mask or whatever it might be, in the middle, there's some really nice, special human things going on, and I think it's wonderful for all of us that that's happening.
Absolutely,
and I think the great thing for anybody who is creative is that the audience now is recognizing that there's a value in that relationship with that artist, and they're quite prepared to support as well to keep the content coming, which I think is a real fundamental thing. We don't need to be tied to Spotify for the rest of our lives. We should. Right. There's ways here to make sure that it's a more organic route to make sure that people who are creating content are rewarded for creating that content and keep doing it. And the beautiful thing then is that the audience can talk to the creator, and the creator is able to then include the audience in what they're doing. And yes. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean. One opportunity that came up I didn't mention earlier that I really do want to mention is I'm good friends, and I've known Chris Jericho for a long time, and he's, I don't know how well he's known in the UK, but he's just okay. So he's got that band Fozzy, which is a much heavier kind of aggressive rock style than is my cup of tea. But either way, I got a lot of respect for him. For anyone that's like big at one thing and then they're very competent and talented at another thing and successful. It's remarkable, you know what I mean, when you can wear all those hats and do it. And he started this quarantine band, that was actually my first real, I got to get this garage band thing going and record. I have a 112 Celestion speaker in my laundry room, and I bring it into my office, into the Focus, right into the thing, and I'm blasting. I didn't use the Marshall head for that. I used I have these Egnator heads that have a lower wattage, a Rebel, I think it's the Rebel 25 or 30 or something, Rebel 30, and that's loud enough. And I got a real legitimate sound, my vintage wah-wah pedal and overdrive, and go, you know what I mean? And I'm doing Harder Chrome for him. And that became a video. He has some terrific band members, again, guys that don't usually play with Jericho, but there they are, with Chris. on this project, and I made friends with them. And so he had No 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 come out, which did really well, but I'm not involved with that. But Heart of Chrome was mine. And we've done some things together online, and just having that relationship, and and ironically, of course, his main career, the wrestling thing, didn't stop. They
because in Florida it was going on, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's televised, and then they have those people on TV screens like watching or whatever. But what's going on with the entertainment business is really it concerns me. But in the meantime, I'm just going to shut up and play my guitar and entertain people and be creative, because. If you're not doing a lot of that, I don't know how you're surviving right now, because and I was typically a live gigging, earning musician. You know what I mean? And I don't know when bands can go back out on the road quite yet. You see, know that. So
yeah, I mean, they're talking in the UK of kind of late spring, early summer,
right?
But I know that Biden was saying that it's probably going to be June, July time, because obviously you've got like 10 times the amount of people that we have, so 10 times the number of vaccines that have to be done.
Yes,
so it's not that simple, is it? But
I
know a lot of the venues in the UK have written off until September, October time, really, before they consider anything's really going to start.
And that Kiss cruise, which is when I really connect with the Kiss fans, okay?
Yeah.
That's postponed till next, the Halloween period, the end of October. And I'm hoping that something like that can be, still everything being much calmer. And you can imagine the just the scientific concept of a cruise, with a pandemic, it's really crazy. I chat with doctors, and I try to stay out of the political thing, even though, I'm aware of what's going on, and some of it's so depressing to me that I don't ever really talk about it, publicly, certainly. But all I know is staying creative, doing what you're good at, improving that, and staying positive about everything, because those things you can control. The madness of the people that don't want to wear a mask, or the politicization of it is quite disturbing, and I don't like to focus on any of that. I mean, even Kiss has gotten a lot of flack for Gene and Paul saying, like, wear your mask, I mean, right or wrong, it's not really the issue, and we're all in this together, and if you don't believe it, you should still wear a mask. You know what I mean? That's all.
Oh, it's not like a real hardship, is it?
I know. Yeah.
The only thing I would say about that is I got quite hooked up watching CNN through the course of the American election. In fact, there's a whole load of people in the UK that became CNN devotees for quite a while. And there was an advert on CNN that just flashed through a number of masks, and at the end just said, it isn't a political statement, it's just a mask. That's all it is.
Yeah, I watch Sky News sometimes. I remember finding out that your I guess Prime Minister is your main guy, right?
Yeah.
Well, he got COVID the first time. Yeah, questionably. Yeah, you guys are pretty wild too. But let's talk about gear. I don't want to go this.
Well, I need to ask you a question, because only because you mentioned something earlier about Crazy Nights, because it was this enormous hit in the UK. I mean, literally, and I think the other thing was it came at a point when we were just we really got into compilation albums as well. So suddenly, there was the album itself, there's MTV and the whole video thing going. It was absolutely at the zenith of that kind of arena rock thing.
Yeah.
Every you've seen all the videos with all the screaming fans and the pyro and what have you. And then this whole thing of suddenly we've got these compilation albums, sort of, soft metal or metal rocks or
leather and lace
or heather or whatever. And so everywhere you turned, and I don't know if Jay said the same, for a summer, that song was just about the only thing you heard.
To be fair, mate, I got the album the day it came out, so it was and the single when that came out, and so and it was the Donington year as well, wasn't it?
Okay.
88.
Well, we did that 88, around then. And let me tell you about that song. Well, Nevison was the right producer, because Paul it concerned Gene because Gene knew that Nevison would use keyboards and he was a little lighter in the production. But he delivered hits for Ozzy and Heart and other bands. But Crazy Nights, it's not that different from the demo. I just got the tape back from my friend who archives everything for me. And here's the side note. First of all, I think it's a terrific song, and it represents Kiss perfectly. Why it wasn't a bigger hit in America, well, those things are too difficult to answer. Who knows, But I'm so grateful that it was a big international hit because there's compilations that have continued to come out. First song that are, especially if it's a UK-driven a project or a foreign. First song, Crazy Nights. You know what I mean, on the record. So it's me, and then of course, the majority of the other songs are not they're all makeup, of course, but. Eric Singer, my good drummer friend who's still in Kiss, worked with Brian May, for example. And I've met Brian a few times. He's, as you know, he's just rock royalty and one of the loveliest gentlemen on the planet. I remember meeting him early on in my career, and Roger was not so friendly, but Brian was totally like a normal human being. Very calm and very polite, and he came to a weird gig that I was performing at with a disco artist. So, and the fact that he gave me respect and everything went a long way for me to think about, well, wow, if I ever have some fame in my career, I would be polite to people too, because he's as high as you can go as far as I'm concerned. That's the one Kiss song he knows. He doesn't care about Kiss, doesn't like Kiss, doesn't know about Kiss. He knows Eric was involved with Kiss and all that, but Eric would be like, "Oh, yeah, I know Crazy Nights. Yeah, Bruce, there's a nice guitar solo on that, kind of thing, and that means the world to me. Of course, I'm just saying I'll be celebrating Crazy Nights when that anniversary comes up because I guess that came out in '87 actually. So, I got 2022 will be a big year for my iMovie, right? I'll be busy doing celebrations. But it's the right song at the right time, and I don't care if you only knew it from compilation or you supported the record. That video was really important, and that's where my BC Rich appeared and my radioactive suit, which is upstairs in my entertainment room. So I'm blessed it all came together, and we're even talking about it.
Yeah, well, it's one of those perfect little moments. If you look at songs that just, like you say, right time, but also just everything that right about it. Just it just. I mean, and when it hit the airwaves, and this is the bit, and you touched on it earlier on. I don't know why it wasn't massive in the US because I just assumed it was massive everywhere. Right. It was just one of those. It's a bit like there's certain songs you think about from that era, and you think about, okay, You Give Love a Bad Name. And I just think about that as being global, huge. Crazy Nights, global, huge.
Right.
A bit later, Poison, Alice Cooper, just global, huge. And there's about maybe 6 or 7, 10 songs maybe you would put in that category. If you were to build that 80s rock album, and you had 10 tracks, Crazy Nights is in there, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's absolutely in there.
Here I Go Again would be on there too.
Yeah, Here I Go. Yeah,
right.
Give Love a Bad Name. Poison, just about. I think was 89. Sure. That fits in, but that's the album, isn't it?
But then again, if you're from Germany, then a David Hasselhoff song would have to be.
Well, it'd be 9 Scorpion tracks and a David Hasselhoff song.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what I'm saying. There is this global thing where certain artists are bigger in certain countries, and all that's fascinating. And look, as long as the artist feels the love and the popularity, this is why those Kiss cruises are tremendous. I believe that the number one people that do the cruise are Americans. It's very easy to get to Miami, but I think number 2, which is close, is like South America. You know what I mean? Go figure. But it's not that hard for them to get up to Miami and jump on a ship. But it's really amazing that international interest in bands, and God bless all my foreign friends from outside America because they've been so supportive for my career. It's great.
I was watching a video yesterday, sort of getting ready for this, and I was watching some of the Kiss Cruise videos. Because you've done that, you put a band together. So is it Todd, Brent, and
Zach Throne? Yeah.
And you play those Kiss songs that Kiss don't play, which is which is brilliant, and it must be fantastic to be on the cruise. But I was watching the one where there's you, Ace, and Tommy all playing on the stage, and it's. I've always been kind of amazed that you see all the press and everybody seems to be oh, we don't like Ace, blah blah blah. Ace doesn't like them, Ace doesn't like Tommy, blah blah blah. But then you get these Kiss cruises, and everybody seems to come together. It's probably is like a family thing, isn't it? That
Absolutely.
all those differences are put aside, and you're all together on stage.
The Kiss cruise is like Disneyland for a Kiss fan. Okay. So it doesn't really matter if you want to go to Tomorrowland or, Goofy's, whatever, wherever you want to be, or Cinderella's castle. And believe me, that kind of stuff, it's really interesting. Like when you make a reference to people complaining about a member of Kiss and everyone is on the, in the bullseye, maybe me a little less than some others because I generally don't say anything outrageous or anything, and I don't have anything bad to say really about anybody. I'd rather just say like he's really talented, but I don't want to talk about him. You know what I mean? Something like that. But the truth is, when it comes to an event, like if you're on that cruise, you love Kiss and you love all members of Kiss in all eras generally. Yeah. And then the fact that all right, it was wonderful that Paul and Gene invited me to play with the guys. I got together with Tommy beforehand. And then, of course, because Ace was on that particular tour in 2008, cruise in 2018, we realized it was, I'll give you guys a little backstory that's pretty funny, that when I was going over the stuff with Paul and Tommy, and he said, yeah, and then Ace is going to come up and we'll have him do one of, like 2000 Man or whatever, and then he'll do this, and I don't know really those songs. I didn't play them on Unplugged, the MTV thing. I exited the stage, right? And Paul looked at me and he said, you're going to stay on stage. And I'm like, oh, boy. And I couldn't say why. I couldn't, you know what I mean? But I thought about it, and I think the more he made it look like Kumbaya with all eras, everybody on stage, he didn't want to kind of present a narrative of the original guys. That's why Tommy was going to stay. Or it's one thing for Tommy to exit while I arrive, but then we're all there. You see what I mean? Yeah. So, every band, there's politics. We all know that. But it was fun. I didn't really want to play like 7 or 8 songs on that one. And then, of course, in the 2019 Sail Away party, it was a revolving stage. It was really weird. I remember Gene was unhappy about the monitors feeding back. Well, of course, because at a certain point where the mics are going to get, the other gear, for a moment. Mm-hmm. But, they get through it, and they're changing guitars every song, so they sell to the fans. They're all pre-sold. It's really remarkable, the support that the fans give them. But that was a lot of fun, actually, to come up. And then I didn't have to, be the sidekick to Ace or, anything like that. It was just my moments, and we played more songs than I expected to. So there's nothing like that. And a Kiss cruise can really give that platform, because it's magical. Anything can happen there, like so Disneyland.
I just wanted, while we're on the Kiss cruise, because you did was it 2017 with your
no, 17
brother
I did with my brother, which was an incredible gig. And I can go into a little bit of that, but I'm just saying 18 was Ace, and then 19 was, with... again, I got to sit in with those guys, but and 2020 got postponed, as you know. Yeah. But I was invited back again, which is great because I'm the guy that can, Kiss was running out of like themes and ideas of what to do, and what happened in 17 was they realized they wanted to stretch out. So Paul had a great idea called Kiss World, and then have a panel and have Peter Criss's first wife, have like one of the security guard guys who knew them, John Hart, who's got a heart of gold, great guy. Have Michael James Jackson, the producer guy, be involved. Invite myself, invite Bob. Of course, all of a sudden, in the contract was you jam with the house band. You know what I mean, Bob and I. And fortunately, that evolved into playing with Brent Fitz and Todd Kearns. Okay. Yeah. And we rehearsed for like 2 days in Vegas very quickly, an hour set we were only asked to do. And we split it up, my brother and I, songs that he contributed, it was very easy to find songs from my era, of course. And we just did a really magical performance. The lasers were amazing. The sound was great. We didn't have any roadies, no sound. The sound guy was just like, the promoter's sound guy, you know what I mean, who goes on the boat. And that concert was really special. And it was, obviously, it caused a little bit of friction with my brother, because then he thought I would leave Grand Funk and just be the Kulick brothers, now for the rest of our touring years. And I wasn't going to leave a gig like Grand Funk, because it's a little distorted putting the Kulick brothers on the Kiss cruise. You know what I mean? That's like where the Kiss fans all are, and they're going to treat you like gold. But you take that outside of that, it might have been, successful in some places, but not enough to, necessarily sustain a big tour. You get what I mean? And the Grand Funk gig has been really good for me. So we were invited back for 18, and then my brother, you got to play the game of the music business carefully, and it's the Kiss cruise. They don't have to have you. You don't, there's people that would do it for nothing, and of course they were giving us what I felt was a respectable offer, and it wasn't enough for Bob, and that caused stress with us to the point where I didn't even want to do it. And then and finally, they told me, no, you're going to do it. If Bob's not happy, he doesn't have to be there. And I was like, oh, that's not really going to be very comfortable either. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they knew I was in the band for 12 years, and as much as Bob has history and he was important to them, it's not fair for me to bail completely because I can't work out the money with my brother. So sadly, that caused a big rift with us, and I, of course, delivered the goods with by having Zach Throne, a really, really gifted guitar player or bass player, and he played bass and sang the Gene song. So my band even got, morphed into another element, and that's what happened on 18 and 19. And then the medleys, and obviously I'm only going to concentrate on my material, which is too many songs to begin with. You know what I mean?
Well,
so
it's like 10 albums or something, isn't it? Is it 7 studio albums and then...
I never count because, I do count some of the things I do even on Animalized live, which were things previously. But yeah, we were mostly concentrating on the albums I was related to, even though we did stuff from, a little bit of everything, even on Animalized, I thought medley we did, and Hot in the Shade, and Revenge, and X and Sex, bonus tracks, Rock Hard, it was a lot of fun. Those guys are incredible. Todd Kearns is so talented. The real deal. Brent Fintz is a dear friend of mine from Union, the band I have with John Corabi. And Zach Throne is like my secret weapon because he could sing like a bird or sing like Gene. Those are different animals, that. But plays bass amazing, and these guys harmonize amazing together. I love these guys. I affectionately call them the Mob, members of Bruce's band, 2Bs, okay, for Mob, the Las Vegas Mob, And we had plans to record something fun this year. It's going to happen early next year, but I got so busy with so much content and new things to do that I couldn't properly put that attention to that song that I want to do with them. And our goal, and our always goal, even if we all had our normal gigs, was to record some songs, maybe put out an EP. We already have original material prepared, but I know how to prioritize things, and sadly, that couldn't be at the top right now. December would have been easy, but then I got 2 gigs. I have to call the streaming events gigs now, believe it or not, even though I'm not going anywhere. You know what I mean? I'm not flying anywhere. But I love those guys, and I can't say enough kind words about their talent and their support and knowledge of Kiss. They push me, you know what I mean? So
I suppose we should kind of like veer into the gear, really.
Okay. Yeah, I'm running out of time here. You wind me up, and so my largest GarageBand file, my audio for you, ever done. So, yeah, go ahead.
So, are you still on the ESPs? You're still on the Marshall JCM 900s?
Yes, I like for the Grand Funk gigs. I'm able to, since that music does go through a little bit of styles of representing their years. We don't do anything Kiss there, so it's fascinating, and it's a great question, Jason. That my go-to amp's always the 900 series, and with my pedal board, I know how to make it work, and I can go anywhere in the world. If it's a functioning 900 series dual reverb, I can get my sound. All right, I could work with a 2000 and some other amps, but the point is I do like those amps. So my backline gear for Grand Funk's always been that. But guitar-wise, yeah, there'll always be ESPs and largely ESPs. But with Grand Funk, because of the backline truck, I could have a Les Paul out on the road. It will be a chambered one because I don't like heavy guitars on my shoulder. There'll always be some sort of Strat, so that could be a real Fender one and or an ESP because they've made that too.
Yeah.
And I love the Vipers, which is like an ESP SG kind of style guitar. There were times I was playing 335s, because I love those guitars, and that might be appropriate for a song. Maybe a Tele for a song. So now what happened, like to dig into the Kiss catalog, I got to have a Floyd Rose if I'm going to have one guitar.
Yeah.
So hence, you see me on the cruise. I got this. I was so lucky to find this used 2008 M2 ESP that is just my friend. You go to Cameo, the cameos that I do, most of the time I'm just playing that because that thing just behaves and plays like butter.
Is the M2 the 2 pickup version?
The 2 pickup black. Yeah. It has a reverse headstock Floyd Rose. This one happens to have Duncan blackouts on it, I think they're called, and they're really cool. They're a little different than EMGs, but they're really awesome. And that guitar, last cruise I was able to take another one, a Vintage Plus, to have as a spare. But they're just tremendous instruments, and yeah, for the Kiss and those sessions where I have to be more Kiss-like, sometimes I'm playing my vintage ESPs, my Banana or Sunburst Horizon, But the go-to amps and guitars, and obviously recording in my home is easy. There's gear here, but I can, believe me, your sound's in your hand anyway. You guys know that. Slash sounds like Slash on my guitars, and I'll sound like me on his Les Paul. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I always loved that one that was, I can't remember what the colour's called. It's kind of like blue fading to white.
Yeah, so that's an ESP M1, and the original one's actually in England. Go see it. That one is, and I call it the Flip Flop Blue Burst, or Flip Flop Blue, and it's at the Hard Rock, the Merch Building by Hyde Park in London. And I've had people take pictures, like before you go down the staircase, if you're going to the vault, you would see it there. And ESP kindly made me a recreation of that, a replica that is beautiful. And I've shown that recently this year because I got it probably early this year, before the pandemic, but that's a terrific guitar too. I'm trying to work out a way that ESP can offer replicas of that as well, because I've done very well with the multi-swirl one, and I've recorded even with my replica. The real one's in Sweden with a diehard fan who has like my outfits from Asylum. This guy's insane. No, a very, very impressive collection, I have to admit. But those ESPs, the M1, you see, that's all you really need, you know what I mean? For those Kiss years, I played the Charvels originally, then I morphed into the ESP line because now I'm dealing with a New York company. Even though they're Japanese, they had their kind of U.S. distributor in New York. So, and I've had this relationship with them since 1985. It's crazy, and I'm still really tight with them. Their new, they call it the 1987, which is an M1. Is really close to some of the things I played during my Kiss years, and they're great guitars, and they offer them as LTDs, so price-wise, I think they're a bargain.
Yeah, well, I'll talk to Drew, who's the UK rep for
ESP.
There you go. So, Drew, I just want this flip-flop blue kind of colour. Can you?
Well, that one you're not going to find quite yet, but look at those M1. It's just called the keyword's 1987. Yeah.
Right,
I remember I was using them a little earlier, but it's a one pickup, like a soloist body, Horizon body, neck through, one pickup, Floyd Rose, go. Fast neck, big frets, amazing.
Yeah,
really
because just remember you were using Charvel at this. Was it a gold one that you used on the Animalized?
I had a gold one, I had a blue one, I had a silver one later in America. Here's my issue: those are great guitars, and they were all custom made. Then he sells them to Japan, and they were doing the one with the white decal without the real Floyd Roses and all. And those are pretty cool. But in general, the Charvel necks were too flat for me around the back. ESP was making a more Fender-feeling neck for me. Not personally for me, in general, okay? So I'm much more comfortable. I've never been super, super comfortable on any of the Charvels. Like the one that's in this famous Charvels that I'm performing with, even in videos, I sold ages ago because I was like, this doesn't feel right to me anymore now that I'm playing this. There's a custom designed Zebra soloist Jackson guitar, which is a Charvel, and I had to sell it. I regret getting rid of anything, now, of course, because I've been celebrating it all. So,
have you still got the Junior?
I have a Junior, the beat up one from Revenge. Yes, It looks like a Frankenstein, like it went through. I bought it. It was like some punk guy must have had it. I don't even know if the neck's original, but it's an amazing sounding guitar. It's like if I asked Eric Singer for my, tell me your favorite, guitar that I own, he'd probably say that Junior, that beat up Junior. It's kind of funny.
I always.
I'll go on, Jace. You carry on. Sorry. You carry on.
No. I was just saying, I always, it was one of the great, as much as I enjoyed the reunion and so on, it was such a disappointment to me because I felt that Revenge was the best Kiss album for a decade at least. And then I love Carnival of Souls. It's the most honest Kiss album, I think. When it stops being about shagging girls and actually
right.
you get songs of like Paul singing to his son and things like that.
Yep.
And I think because I'd grown up by that point, it felt really nice that the band had grown up as well.
Well, how it happened was we just needed to do a heavier record than Revenge. And originally I think Gene and Paul asked Ezrin if he'd want to be involved. He helped us with the first song. It's kind of funny. The way you get your money back then from the label, your first half. So let's say whatever it is, if it's $1 million or $100,000, you get 50. If it was 100, you get $500,000. But you have to show that you have started. So I remember we went in and cut, and ironically it was I Walk Alone, an earlier version of I Walk Alone, and we went to a studio and. Then I'm not sure why, but Ezrin decided not to. But music was getting really dark and more grungy and heavy, and we wound up using Toby Wright, who knew Soundgarden, but who also knew Kiss very well, because he did some recording work, assisting engineer work on I don't remember which record, but the riffs and everything were heavy. I had 9 co-writes because I really hunkered down and just started jamming to my drum machine, weird time signatures, and figuring out detuned riffs that were heavy and interesting. And I always tell the fans, well, if you love the record, thank you. If you hate it, don't blame me. They were looking for a heavier, darker record than Revenge. But thank you. And that's a challenging record to play. I mean, my cruise band have done some songs from it. It's hard. And some Kiss fans hate it. Paul never warmed up to it. He always still says poopy things about it, sadly. But you're right. Like a song like "I Will Be There" is such an honest, loving song, which is very different from other sensitive ballads or whatever. And that album, I think, will always stand the test of time as the final sessions. But what can I say? And I love the "I Walk Alone," even though the title was.
Prophetic.
Gene wrote it for him to sing it, and then it was Toby that said, "You have to sing that song, Bruce." And he didn't know the reunion was coming, but he heard me sing the demos because I kept working on that song. And on my YouTube channel, by the way, I show how that song developed. I had to do it in 3 parts because it was a lot to do. But that was before I really knew how to do my iMovie. But it's there. I explain and I play a bit of all the different versions and how it kept evolving and how I flipped the tape and got the whole backwards drums and the guitars backwards. It was quite a challenge. I had a lot of fun. And to your point, Ant, like I was just dealing with the most primitive gear then. A 4-track, a 12-track machine. Cassettes, flipping cassettes, and that becomes the master that I'm going to record over. And now, here we are. Why wouldn't I want to jump into something a little more sophisticated, but not too intense, to do it all.
Well, I'm very conscious that we're nearly there on time as well. And I suppose the first thing I need to ask is, Bruce, can we do this again? Because I don't think we've even begun to scratch the surface. So, would you find some time in the new year if we wanted to do a part 2? Would that be cool?
I would love to, and then we'll give you guys equal time. We'll put it on a timer. Unlike Kiss videos where they used to, like Kiss videos where they used to count each other's shots. Of course, Eric and I were on the floor. You know what I mean? We didn't have any footage, but the two of them would cut the like how many? Wait, we got to go back to
Well, I'm gonna steal in and I'm gonna ask the last question, and
okay.
And Jason's just going to live with it, and it's only because it's December. But I need to talk to you about We Wish You a Merry Christmas and a Headbanging New Year. I think that's the full title, isn't it? We Wish You a Metal Christmas and a Headbanging New Year. Because, you've got to be on a Christmas tune at some point in your career. Otherwise, it's not worked out the way it should have worked out, as far as I'm concerned. And you're on that twice. And I believe that on one of the tracks, you're with your brother.
Yeah, well, Bob actually produced... The main one you're referring to, that actually is done quite well. And it was with Joe Lynn Turner singing, and it's one of the big, like, for me as a featured artist on a, track with a lot of different known players. It does really well. And I just mentioned it to my wife last night, actually, how I got to start slamming that, reminding people and bring it back in everyone's attention because, I really love the way it came out. And I always joke around when the song comes up. Lisa and I listen to a lot of Christmas music, actually, during the holidays. But we listen to traditional versions, know. And I go like, honey, is that the same figgy pudding that I did, for my brother's, Metal Christmas? Yes, it is, Bruce. So we joke around about it. But yeah, no, I'm real proud of that. I'm glad you brought it up, and and I might shout out to Lisa. Lisa, what's the other thing about the Herald? Yeah, so like there was another record that I did for somebody else where they were called Northern Lights Orchestra,
right?
Kind of like an ELO type of project but they were originals. They weren't actual. And my producer friend of mine, Jeremy, he suggested, why don't you play a little bit of a Christmas song on that fade out when it settles down, and then, that was the song. It was the Herald. And then I got really frustrated about it because I just couldn't remember where the notes went. I knew the melody, but I just was having a hard time. And then I got so frustrated. So the funny thing I said was just like, and what the hell is a herald anyway? You know what I mean? Like what did I say? Oh, who the hell is Harold? And what's the explanation? What the Herald Angels, that that thing. So anyway, I love this. I love the music that comes with the season. I should be on 30 Christmas songs, and I will let you guys know. You'll find it on YouTube. Lisa and I always prepare a song for the last, I think, 4 years. We've entertained everybody with a traditional song where I play more jazzy. And usually it's a Gold Les Paul or a jazz guitar, or it's not a Screaming Floyd Rose M2, you know what I mean, or M1. And we have fun with it, and she's got a beautiful voice, so I really enjoy it. And we have to start rehearsing for that after the other streaming event is done.
Well, we do a playlist that goes along with the podcast, and we'll put a mix of tracks. But obviously we'll include one of the tracks from that because it's on Spotify,
Wonderful.
So we can do that. So which one of the two would you prefer? We Wish You a Merry Christmas, or would you prefer Rocking Around the Christmas Tree?
No. I think that we Wish You a Merry Christmas is really fun.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that one a lot. I think that one gets the most traction too.
Well, the other thing about the album, which is great in terms of the podcast, is the fact that we've spoken to you, which is fantastic. We've also spoken to Bumblefoot, who did Frosty the Snowman on the bonus tracks.
Oh, cool.
And we've also spoken to Mike Exeter, who engineered. So it's almost becoming the 942 album.
Sure,
And who wouldn't want the 942 album to be a Christmas album?
Well, yes.
Yep.
Listen,
we'll enjoy. All right, guys.
Bruce, it's been an absolute pleasure.
We'll do this again next year, and we'll focus on other things, whatever we didn't cover.
We haven't talked about Meatloaf, BlackJack, Union, Grand Funk, really, the solo albums. I got it all written down.
It would be a lot of fun.
Right.
Absolutely. I want to thank you guys, and for those of you out there that don't know, BruceKulick.com for all things Kulick. That's what I like to say.
Okay, guys. Before you go, happy birthday! It's happy birthday.
Oh, thank
Saturday,
you.
Isn't it?
Tomorrow. Well, in Australia, it's already happening. Yes.
Happy birthday now.
Thank you. All right, guys.
Take care, Bruce.
Be well.
Right. Cheers.
Thanks.
Cheers,
Bye.
Bruce. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to 9 to 42, the podcast from the team at the Guitar Show UK. If you've enjoyed the show, then please remember to hit the subscribe button and share with other like-minded souls. For more information about 9 to 42, please follow us on Facebook, Twitter or Instagram at the Guitar Show UK. This has been an A Short Stories production.